Hi, I'm the Side Hustle King. Today I've received a message from Uber saying that cash payments will be going live in their South Coast region on the 1st of May, 2025. I understand that the cash payment rollout is being done in all or the majority of the UK on the same date. I'm therefore going to discuss the pros and cons of taking cash payments and give you suggestions of what to keep an eye on. Here is a copy of the message from Uber. I'm not going to read it out. I'd suggest that if you don't already have a copy of this message that you pause the video and zoom it. There is also a video link to an 8-minute video at the end of the message which explains how cash payments work. I've done a screen recording of this so you have Uber's view on the process.
Right, we recently launched the Cash Trip experience on Uber, and we'd like to use this video to give you more information about this change, including 1. Why we are launching cash trips on Uber. 2. What is changing in the driver app. 3. What this means for you from a safety perspective. At Uber, we believe that movement should be accessible to everyone. Right now, we know that some riders do not use the Uber app because they prefer using cash as a payment method or don't have a local bank card. By allowing cash, we can enable these riders to use the Uber app. These riders could be international riders that have used Uber before but may not have a local bank card to use in the UK, or they could be riders that would generally use other mobility services where you can pay in cash. By enabling these new riders to use the app, we can create more earnings opportunities for you. Our objective is to allow new riders to use the Uber app, keep them on our platform, and create more long-term earnings opportunities for drivers. In addition to enabling more earnings opportunities for drivers, we have also built the experience to be as easy as possible for both yourself and the rider. Let's find out what this means and see what it actually looks like in the app. Once the cash payment option is live in your city, there are several parts of your experience which may be updated, including the enabling of cash trips in the preference section of the Uber app, receiving a cash trip offer, the end of trip experience and how to collect cash from the rider, the post-trip experience with trip receipts and your balance summary. First, you should know that you are fully in control regarding whether you want to receive offers for cash trips or not. When we launch this product in a city, we will automatically opt you in, but you can opt out at any time when driving within a city where the cash payment option is live. Within the main menu, you can go into the Preferences section of the driver app, where you'd usually opt in or out for our different products, like Uber Pet, for example. And there you can see underneath the Trip Filters section, there is an Accept Cash button, which you can toggle on or off whenever you want. Any change in the Preferences setting will take about 15 minutes to apply. Once you're opted in, you will be able to receive offers for cash trips. These offers will have a dedicated line next to the customer rating. This way, you will be able to know ahead of the start of the trip whether the rider intends to pay in cash. We would also recommend that you double check when the rider is entering the car by asking, "Are you aware this is a cash trip and do you have cash to pay for it?" If the rider says no, then you can ask the rider to cancel the trip. At the end of the trip, you'll see a new screen pop up where you will have to enter how much cash you received from the rider for the trip after any exchange of coins and notes between yourself and the rider. For example, if the cost of the trip was £18 and you received a £20 note and gave £2 back to the rider, you should enter £18 into the Uber app. If the rider wants to tip you with the additional £2, then you can also enter £18 into the Uber app and just not give the change back. Note that if the rider doesn't have the money or forgets to pay you, we'll cover that for you. If you don't have sufficient change, we'll also adjust your balance and give riders Uber credits in their account automatically. In cases where the rider later contacts Uber support and disagrees with what the driver puts in the app, drivers will still be paid unless, following an investigation, we determine that the rider was correct. We will investigate such complaints on a case-by-case basis. Once you've settled the transaction with the rider and the trip is completed, you will be able to see on your trip receipt how much money you should have received for this trip and how much cash the rider gave to you based on what you entered in the app. Remember that the amount you received in cash from the rider is what the rider should pay to Uber for this trip, while your earnings will be displayed on the trip receipt. Finally, you will also be able to see the amount of cash you physically received in your balance summary, which will be shown as a reduction to the amount of money Uber owes you. Remember, your balance reflects the total amount of money you can cash out based on the earnings you made with Uber. The amount in your balance increases when receiving money from Uber, either from completing a trip or receiving a promotion. The amount in your balance then decreases when you cash out, or when you receive cash directly from a rider following a cash trip. We've designed the cash experience on Uber to minimize potential for conflict between riders and drivers, thanks to the features we've described. However, while rare, we are aware that carrying cash within your vehicle may lead to increased risks as a private hire driver. Just like you saw earlier, we strongly recommend that you do not dispute transactions with riders. Safely finish the trip, and Uber will handle the collection of any remaining funds directly with the rider. Underpayments will not impact your earnings and will not be counted against you as a driver unless in case of fraud. We would recommend avoiding carrying too much cash in your car, keeping the cash out of sight, and making sure you deposit your cash regularly if you can. You should also be aware that you should never have to give your bank details to the rider. If the rider tries to ask for your bank details or your phone, you should politely refuse and tell them that it is not necessary. Finally, if a rider ever tries to give you cash for a trip that has not been booked as a cash trip, you should refuse the cash. You will still be paid in the usual non-cash method, and we'll handle the case separately with the rider. Remember, your safety is priority, and if there are any incidents, you can always report it to Uber in the help section of the app. Now, before we close, let's recap. We are now offering riders the option to pay in cash for their rides to increase the number of riders using the app and create more earnings opportunities for you. We've built the product to make it as easy as possible for both the driver and the rider to take cash trips, and this includes, after automatic opt-in, being able to decide as a driver whether you want to remain opted in or to opt out and opt in again at any time in the preference section of your app. A specific line of text below the rider rating on trip offers to inform you that the rider will pay in cash. A new screen at the end of the trip to enter how much cash you received. A new line on the trip receipt and your balance summary to track how much you received in coins and notes from the cash trips you completed. If the rider doesn't have the money or forgets to pay you, we'll cover that for you. If you don't have sufficient change, we'll also adjust your balance and give riders Uber credits in their account automatically. If you need more information, please visit our blog page linked in the description below. If you have any other questions or concerns, don't hesitate to get in touch with us via the help section of the driver app. Thank you for watching.
So let's talk through the pros. The obvious pro is if you are opted in, you'll receive more trip offers on the basis that you'll have more access to riders trying to book. If a rider pays in cash, they are far more likely to say keep the change. This will result in more tips. I'm all for paying the correct tax to Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, so would never do this myself. But it does allow the option for the driver to not declare the earnings of tips to the taxman and evade tax. I'd recommend not evading tax, but each to their own. So here are the cons. Some drivers are clearly concerned about security and the risk that they will get robbed. The reality is we are very much a cashless society now, and this will be used by the minority, so the risk of this is very small, and if you were robbed it would likely be for a small amount. When getting a private hire insurance policy, the broker asks if you receive cash payments. Presumably, if you receive cash payments, your insurance premiums increase in price. If you do not declare that you are receiving cash payments, this may invalidate your insurance policy. I'd recommend contacting your insurer before enabling this feature on the app. Most accountants like to use the business or company bank statements to do their annual returns. To make life simple for your accountant, you need to pay the money into the bank, or you may have problems doing your annual returns. If you pay cash in the bank, you may incur banking fees. For example, Monzo charge £1 per transaction and Revolut charge a 1.5% fee. The way to avoid these banking fees is by transferring the cash value from your personal account to your business account. At the end of each job, you need to take payment, which will take some time. The rider may have the exact money ready, and you just need to put it in your pocket and update the payment received on the app. But it is more likely that the rider will get their purse or wallet out once you've arrived at the destination, which will take even longer. In an extreme example, what happens if someone was wanting to pay a £20 job in bags of pennies? Would you sit and count them all? This will happen to a driver at some point, as I've seen people pay for shopping like this over the years when they are skint. If it took you 5 minutes to collect a payment and update the app, and you usually earn £30 an hour, this would in theory have cost you £2.50. If you are not used to dealing with lots of money, you may not recognize fake banknotes. You may be at greater risk of this if you've not lived in the UK for a long time. You may have gathered that there are more cons than pros to taking cash. I'll contact my insurance company, and if there is no increased premium for taking cash payments, I'll have a go. But I'm going to continue to monitor to see if my earnings increase or drop as a result of cash payments per hour worked. Thanks for watching the video, and hopefully you found this video useful. If you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. If you've got any suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comments. Thanks.